What's going on, dudes and dudettes? Welcome to another episode of Micro Brand Monday here on the Time Teller channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a watch from Revolver Timepieces. Let's go ahead and just break into this box, yeah? It is 1:53 p.m. Let's get down to business. Alright, so Revolver Timepieces, I personally have never heard of them until they wrote to me on Instagram, actually, asking if I'd be interested in doing like a little unboxing and review, and I said, yeah, of course, we have a whole Micro Brand Monday segment, and I think my viewers would be interested. So let's see what's in the box. We have a watch roll, kind of, with two little snap buttons, it seems. We have a warranty card, and then a booklet. So says kind of a stylized, abbreviated Revolver, of course no vowels, and Recon, which I assume is the watch's name. And then we have operating instructions, but of course on this channel I am notoriously ignorant of any instructions, so we're just gonna throw that away. I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna throw anything away because this is not a watch for me to keep. No, this is going back to Revolver so they can send it to another watch reviewer. Special thanks to Revolver for sponsoring this episode, by the way. We can't do Micro Brand Monday without the support of these watchmakers, but without further ado, let's get a little closer, unravel this watch roll, and see the watch inside. All right, guys, moment of truth. So yeah, two little buttons, and not like the traditional type of watch roll. This is more of a pouch, I suppose. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Nope. Sometimes, you know, they throw in little watch tools or maybe another strap for us to take a look at, but this watch is just here on what seems to be like a rubber diving strap, kind of like a modern ISO frame, if you will. Wow, what I'm seeing here is very, very interesting. Let's swap the lens, put on the macro lens, and really scrutinize this watch, yeah? Wow, guys, take a look at this. I was not expecting this, okay? This is almost skeletonized, although I technically can't even consider it a skeleton watch because technically nothing's cut out of that dial. It's just like a translucent blue lens that they're using for the dial, so we can still see all the components, all the inner workings of that movement from the front. But again, nothing is cut out of the dial. So what would we call this? So interesting. Let's take a look at that case back because, oh, yep. So this also has a display case back. So if you're not seeing enough from the front, you can see even more from the back. We're gonna take a look at this movement in a moment and we'll talk about it because I think it's fairly interesting, a point I wanna make. But speaking of that blue lens for that dial, it's playing very nicely with the colorway because we can see the bezel also has that blue and orange contrast here. We're getting white over here, we're getting blue over here, and then the pip is orange, and it's playing, you know, similarly to the dial and the handset. Of course, the minute hand is also very striking with that bold orange color. Yeah, let's get even closer. All right, guys, so really interesting shot here I wanted to share with you as that handset kind of stacks up on itself. The chapter ring is applied to that dial. So translucent dial, but then actually all the indexes are like applied via a ring on top of that lens, so it's kind of very dynamic in a way that we don't see very often. So, you know, all of us are fairly familiar with applied indexes, but they took it kind of a step further at Revolver, and they chose to kind of incorporate it all in a ring and just kind of slap that baby on that dial. And then, of course, we are seeing some added applied indexes with those very bold, round markers there. So I'm very excited to see how this will perform in the Lume test because, again, there's nothing more disappointing than seeing big, bold indexes like this and having them be fairly dim. Now, according to the spec sheet, they are using Superluminova Lume. In my opinion, that's very hit or miss. Okay, it's very hit or miss. We've seen a bunch of watches on Micro Brand Monday with BGW9, Superluminova, all the different C3 superluminovas, and you know, some of them are incredibly bright and some of them just aren't very vibrant. So we will take a look at that in a moment, but let's spend a little bit more time kind of inspecting this watch a bit. So here we can see that crown, and I assume it's threaded. We're going to test the crown setting and function in a moment, but real quick, the puffiness of this lume, like we can see here, we're closing in on the 9 o'clock index. It gives me high hopes that there's a whole lot of lume here on the dial, and I'm hoping that it's going to, you know, absorb a bunch of light and give us a really nice glow, but man, it's just hit or miss these days with some of these micro brand watches. But let's zoom out a bit and let's check the crown setting and function, because again, at the end of the day, this is a diver, and you know, let's see how functional the components actually are. The bezel, the crown, the threading. Does it have hacking? Does it have hand wind? Let's talk about it. All right, so as we go ahead and inspect the crown setting and function, I do want to take a moment and talk about the case, because what I was going to say is there are no crown guards. So this is almost like a modern take on a cushion case diver, a little bit more angular than your typical vintage cushion case. This does have dual finishing, which is a very nice added touch. We can see at the top of these lugs, it's more of a brushed finish. I'm sorry for the glare here, guys. So we can see kind of more of a brushed finish here, but then on the side of the case, this top angle, it's much more of a mirrored polish, and you can kind of see the light playing with the reflections there. We do have a very nice signed crown. It almost looks like it's glowing there in the light. But yeah, so on all the flat sides of this case, it seems to have a nice brushed finish, but then over towards the side cuts, oh, you can see me here. What's going on, guys? You can see a very nice mirrored polished finish. So yeah, very nice attention to detail so far, but again, what I'm more interested in is the actual functionality. So let's go ahead and check this crown. Alrighty, so it is a threaded crown. One thing I really like, actually, that I'm feeling right here is the crown hangs over the rear of the case a little bit, so you can get a really nice purchase with your finger underneath the crown on both sides, actually. So the case isn't so thick by the crown that you struggle to get your fingers like over it. So I really do like that. Very nice kind of serrations here, but not so aggressive that it's going to hurt your fingertips. But if your fingers are wet, seems to grip nicely. So very smooth unthreading, but let's not speak too soon. Let's see what it feels like to thread it back up. Wow, it's not binding at all. It's a very welcome thing here for Micro Brand Monday. We've had some crowns that are very smooth to unwind, and they just bind up when you try to get them back in. So let's go ahead and check the crown setting and function, and pay attention to the dial as I'm doing this. Let's take a look at that second hand. All right, look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. Second hand stopped, and this is, I guess, a hacking timepiece. Very cool. Look. Every time. Love it. All right, so let's push the crown back in. Yep, there's some definite resistance there. Let me put it up against the mic. Yep, I don't know if you guys could hear that, but this is definitely hand wind capable. So this watch is giving us hacking and hand wind. Very, very nice. Let's thread this baby back up, and we'll talk about the movement. Okie dokie, guys. So as we talk about this movement, I wanted to flip the watch over so we can really take a look and inspect everything back here. So this is a screw-in case back, adding to that water resistance. And in fact, right here, water resistant, 300 meters, revolver, automatic diver, stainless steel. So pretty standard stuff. Now, we can see around the inside of that case back, kind of covering the movement a little bit, we see some what looks to be like rifling, something you'd find inside the barrel of many firearms. Okay, this movement is really what I wanted to talk about, because you'll notice it says, if I can flip the rotor over, okay, 24 joules, NH70, SII. So Seiko Instruments. This is a Seiko Movement NH70. Now, most people are going to be like, interesting, that must be incredibly different than the Seiko NH35, right? Because typically we see the Seiko NH35 all the time. So NH70, that's a bigger number. 70 is bigger than 35, so the 70 must be even crazier, right? Well, the point I wanted to make earlier, the interesting bit of information is this is literally essentially the same movement as a Seiko NH35, okay? It has the same beat frequency, same 41-hour power reserve, same 24 joule count. The only difference, and this is very interesting, is the NH70, although it's based on the NH35, this does not have any complications outside of hacking and hand wind. So you'll notice, back when we were testing that crown setting and function, there was only one crown setting. It didn't click twice. Didn't have to worry about this watch having a ghosted date, because this movement literally does not have a date wheel. There's no date complication here. There's no day complication here. The only complication is that it can hack, if you want to consider that a complication. So very, very interesting. Almost a more simple movement than a Seiko NH35. But, you know, hey, at least there's no ghost date, right? So same accuracy, essentially, you know, same power reserve, same joule count, same beat frequency. Pretty standard stuff. I would consider this a workhorse because it's literally the same movement as a Seiko NH35. We pretty much don't have to spend much more time talking about it. But from everything from a visual standpoint, you know, the text looks clean across the case back. No real decorations to speak of on the movement outside of that rifling. So that's, you know, very fun, kind of a take on the watchmaker's name, you know, revolver. And yeah, just wanted to talk about that movement for a moment. But let's go ahead and now test that bezel. Alrighty, it is time to test this bezel. Definite positive ratcheting. I'm pretty sure you can hear it from there. It is unidirectional and there's really no back play, which is great. It's not a sloppy bezel at all. Let's go ahead and line it up with that minute hand. You can actually give it one more click. There you go. Yeah, no real back play. You really got to yank on it to get it to wiggle at all, if anything. So yeah, very, very tight tolerances. Love that. Definite attention to detail there. So I would say if you wanted to use this as an actual timing instrument, you could do so with confidence. All right, guys, now has come the time to break out the dreaded digital calipers and measure the dang thing, right? Hey, why not? Okay, let's go ahead, excluding the crown, and there are no crown guards. At the widest point, let's check the case diameter. 43.4 millimeters across. Let's check the lug to lug. 51.1 millimeter lug to lug. Ooh, this is a big boy. All right, let's check out the case thickness. 14.8 millimeters thick. Okay, so it's not within that 40 millimeter sweet spot. Again, everyone has different preferences. For my regular viewers, you know, right around 40 millimeters diameter and under 50 millimeter lug to lug. That seems to be kind of a very wearable size for a large portion of people. So wrists a little bit larger, wrists a little bit smaller. That seems to be kind of a very workable, wearable sweet spot. This is a bit above that. Does it mean it's the worst thing in the world? I don't think so, but we won't know until we put it on the wrist. So let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty, guys, here it is, the Revolver Sapphire diver, I believe this is called, on my 7.5 inch wrist for reference. Here's what I'll say. The strap, incredibly comfortable. You can actually see Revolver etched here onto the buckle. Yeah, very soft, pretty supple. It's not like one of these really stiff isoframe straps, so that's very nice and comfortable. The watch is pretty light, although it's a big chunk of stainless steel. It's not super heavy or cumbersome on the wrist. I think if I had a complaint about the wearability, it's that the lug to lug is pretty large. okay? Again, I have just above 7.5-inch wrists, and this is practically consuming the entirety of my wrist. So here's what I'll say. If you have wrists bigger than mine, you can totally pull this off, no problem. If you have wrists a bit smaller than mine, it's going to be a pretty big watch on your wrist, but feels good. Again, doesn't feel super cumbersome or anything, nothing uncomfortable about it. I guess it's just, you know, a larger watch. Now, I know there's gonna be people in the comment section, oh my God, 43 millimeter, what are you guys, baby wrist people, you manlets? Well, guys, different strokes for different folks. So if you like really big watches, then, you know, this isn't enormous, but if you have larger wrists than mine, then, you know, have at it. But again, if you have smaller wrists than mine, this is just something to take into consideration. Now I'm gonna give you some macro shots as we talk here, because again, we have to talk about the dial, and a lot of people accuse dive watches of having too much text on the dial, so I wanna hear what you guys think about this Revolver Sapphire diver. What do you think from here? You know, we have their kind of stylized logo right underneath the 12 o'clock index, and then we have RVLVR, Revolver right under that. And then under the spindle above the 6 o'clock, we can see automatic, and then the water resistance rating, 300 meters. So I'd love to hear what you think, especially how it works with the whole, you know, translucent aesthetic. And then actually one thing I noticed is from here, looking top down, the kind of shape of the chapter ring and the markers, and then these big bold round markers, it kind of looks like the front view of like the cylinder of a revolver, right? These are all the chambers, and the whole thing is the cylinder. So it's very, very interesting how they chose to incorporate little subtle nods to the name of their brand. So very, very cool. Let's go ahead and get up close and talk about, you know, the logo and the text. Again, not a ton of text on the dial. The logo isn't super oversized. I'm not going to complain about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the automatic and the water resistance rating text, and we can, you know, see if it's too much, just right. Did they pull it off well? Let's take a look. Pretty standard stuff in my opinion, honestly. I don't think it's too much. I think it works well with the whole color theme of the watch, the white, orange, blue. I think it's tasteful. And again, I don't think any of the text or logos is, you know, too oversized for the dial of the watch. I think you can still read the time properly. I think you can still see enough of the whole movement through that lens of that, you know, translucent dial. I think it works, but again, I want to hear your opinion. All right, guys, so it's time for the Lume test, but what I find really interesting is I didn't even burn this up with my flashlight yet, and it is already glowing, even on the bezel. So that's, you know, a great sign. Let's go ahead and give it a little bit of a shine there with my torch. My viewers in the UK refer to flashlights as a torch. Very proper. Speaking the Queens. All right, so, wow. Very nice to see a watch from, you know, this Micro Brand Monday segment that actually has decent lume. Oh my Lord, love it. Look at all that glow on the bezel. Handset, nice and vibrant. You will have no issues reading this in the dark, guys. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Look at that. So they utilize that BGW9 Super Luminova lume very nicely. And, you know, it's nice to see because oftentimes BGW9, the blue toned lume from Super Luminova, is not great. All right. It looks nice in photos, but in person, it's not great. This, I prefer green tone lume because it's technically more vibrant, or typically more vibrant, I should say. But they did a good job with this. So great job. Finally, some functional, vibrant lume. Okie dokie, guys. So we've spent some time with the Revolver Sapphire diver. I actually don't know why it said Recon on the little pamphlet. It said Revolver Recon, but then this, I believe, is the Sapphire diver. So that confused me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure that out after I film the video. But what do I think about this as a package, you know, all together? Well, 300 meter water resistance rating, Seiko Instruments movement, but again, no complications as far as date or day. You are getting hacking and hand wind. You're getting a very nice tight tolerance bezel. You're getting a very smooth crown, threaded, of course, adding to that water resistance rating and that shock protection. You are getting a very, very visible, legible dial. Again, those bold indexes and the bold orange from that minute hand definitely help you keep track of the time on the bezel, but also on the dial. Sapphire crystal display case back, some very interesting design choices, very nice nod to the whole revolver name. Let's go ahead and talk about the price, right? So all this stacked together up against what seems to be on their Kickstarter page, about $338. Now there are a bunch of watches in that price range as well, but I would consider that entry level, under 500 bucks. So if you're looking for something very visible, very functional, with very nice spec sheet, nothing crazy, no real complications to speak of outside of hacking and hand wind, but you want something that does not look like, you know, every other dive watch you see, then yeah, for under 500 bucks, this is a definite option for you. Now, again, I very, very, very rarely say, oh, you gotta go out and get this. You gotta go turn off the episode, go get it. But if you're interested, then, you know, under 500 bucks, hey, that's, you know, not a whole bunch of money to throw at a watch. So I'm gonna leave a link in the description below where you can check out their Kickstarter and see the things that they have going on over there. But I'm just giving you the information, I'm telling you what I think about it. I think that's a very reasonable price for the specs that you're getting, and I think that they've put it together in a very nice package. I do have some complaints, you know, I think the specs are a bit big. It's not a size I wear regularly, but you know, I do have watches that I love that have very large case diameters. You know, the Seiko Tuna, I was wearing a G-Shock in the beginning of this episode. So I'm not saying I never wear watches above 40 millimeters. I'm just saying that this watch, you know, the above 50 millimeter lug to lug, the above 40 millimeter diameter, it's a large watch. So if you have smaller wrists than mine, which are 7.5 inches, then this is going to be a lot of material on your wrist. But guys, I want to thank Revolver for sending this watch for review, for sponsoring this episode. I want to thank my channel members for allowing me to film every day. We can't do anything without their support either. You know, $4.99 a month gets you 6 pieces of content a week, plus access to the members only Discord chat. Click the join button next to the subscribe button and become a channel member, and you directly support this channel every single month, and we thank you for it. Thank you to my viewers for getting me past 150,000 subscribers. I can't do anything without you guys. So I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for helping me start this year strong. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this installment of Microbrand Monday. All right, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Jory Goodman, the time teller. And always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.